Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer Koski and Jan Thompson coming to you really to talk with you about our intention to roll out the Quality Assurance Project. And as all of you probably know, you've heard about it somewhat, all of you know that it means that we're going to be starting a process of reviewing our work and looking at what we've been doing. And we're going to start with a subject that we've never reviewed before. That's MSGs. And many of you have been uploading MSGs and so forth, but we're going to start there because it's a very a new way in which we're being reviewed by RSA. And it's something that we need to look at. And I thought it would be very, very factual. It would be more black and white to do that type of reviewing. But we want to go back to talking with you in the very beginning and to greet you because we want to let you know why we are starting the quality assurance, not only the project, but the quality assurance unit. And this will make a difference for us in the field going forward. Jennifer has her dog with her, so you can tell her dog Henry is with her. So every once in a while, we might have a commentary from Henry, if that's okay with you. I hope that's fine. I'm coming to you from my kitchen, and she's coming to you from a location where she's working at today, and her dog Henry is in the room. So I just want to go back a little bit in history, and just not much, but just talk to you a little bit about the fact that in March of 2016, I think was the last of the case reviews that we did. Do you remember that, Jennifer? Do you recall that? That was, I think the last one may have been in Rochester. And when we used to do, many of you are new and you haven't experienced this, but when we used to do case reviewing, we did so by reviewing the entire team, and we looked at the entire case record. And we had volunteer reviewers. And it was a very process-oriented, it was very comprehensive in nature. And I've been around for a number of years, and I had experienced those reviews, and they were exceptionally well done. We had, like I say, volunteer reviewers who were very well trained. I want to tip my hat and thank Heather Farmer for arranging for that in the past and really working hard in training the reviewers. Many reviewers were counselors, some were RAMs, and they really did an absolutely wonderful job of case reviewing. But at this point, we want to take the reviewing process to a different level and really call it more and intentionally have it more be quality assurance so that we are creating a shared vision, all of us, not just those of us who have been starting this process, but you also, as members of our statewide staff, will be sharing in that vision for what does it mean to do good quality work, to do wonderful quality work, which I know we do. And I don't think you can really get a sense for what quality is unless you talk about quality, unless you divide up the pieces of quality, unless you have a dialogue about it, and unless you are very intentional about it. For instance, I'll just give you an example. If we were all teaching in a classroom and our instructors never told us what were the main points that we needed to remember or think about or utilize, we would just learn and learn and learn, but we would all have our individual ways of deciding what's important and what isn't important. Whereas if they say, well, now this is important, or this is how we're doing it, it makes a big difference, because then we share and we talk about, okay, why is this is important? Why is it important? Why are we doing our work this way? And that's what we're starting with in the quality assurance process. I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer because I think she has some comments about that, because really when you started with the more of the administrative task you were bringing through the policy learning team, you were bringing, and you used the term, bringing policy to life. And can you talk to me about your view of how we could start using these times together and looking at quality in a chunked out manner to see, to begin the dialogue, to see how we're performing the work we're doing?
Sure, I'm happy to do it, and I hope that Henry doesn't have too much to say in the background. don't. But for some reason, of course, he tends to want to talk when it is not opportune. So I am happy to talk about it, and I have a vision for this work. And I hope that that vision can be shared, not just by me, and the QA group, but the rest of you as we're working together to do the best work that we know how in VR. And that to me is part of why we are intentional in combining the kind of the two groups together, staff development and quality assurance, because really it's a constant feedback loop of learning and development for our staff and for ourselves. And so we're really looking forward, I think, to creating a process that feels developmental, that is all about learning, and that it enhances the work that we're all doing. I also just want to say, as part of this work, we want to keep on evaluating how our quality assurance process ends up rolling out. Each time that we are working on this process, we want to continue to do better and to learn what works and what's the most helpful for folks as well. And so as we move forward, we're going to be learners as you are as well. I'm wondering, Jan, if it's okay, maybe if I just start talking a little bit about the values that we've developed. We have,
I wish you would.
That would be great, thanks. We have a quality assurance work group that is comprised of a number of folks in the agency that have different perspectives, from our counselors to RAM, to regional director, staff development. We have a Foz on the group, Heather's on the group with her perspective from policy as well. And we've also brought on those new QA development staff, and they've joined this work as well. And this is probably a good time to introduce them even before I get into the values, because they are really an important integral piece of this work. And we brought on 3 counselors who were counselors in the past and who are now QA development specialists. And I want you to note the name of their title even. We're really talking about development. And so it was intentional to put that word in their job title. So we have Angela Davis, and we have Jackie Reitler, and we have Emily Kolbinger, who have joined in this work in work out of class positions at this point, because of the hiring freeze that we are all working within. And so I greatly appreciate their willingness to step into this new role, to be creative, to really think about how this could work well for all of you as we start this new process. And so part of the work that this group has been doing is really starting to create some values, and the values help us focus in on everything else that we're doing. And so we have 6 values that we have created. One of them is being developmental, and I think Jan's talked about that, and I even just mentioned it a moment ago, that this is really about learning, and it is about understanding the work that we're doing, and are we doing the work in the way that we need to be doing the work. And of course, recognizing the great work that we're doing as well. And we want something that's,
may I say something just real quickly about developmental, if that would be okay? We want to roll out these reviews in such a way that we'll train first. We'll introduce a topic like MSGs. There'll be a training similar to what you've experienced when you've had the policy learning team. And then after that, we'll choose cases. The cases will be pulled under certain criteria that have to do with what we're looking at, like MSGs, and not somebody else's work, but your own work. And then we'll do the assessment, and then we'll all learn from it. What does the agency need to learn in terms of our need for more training? What do you all need to learn, if anything? What are you teaching us? What are you telling us? And then move forward to another topic. But we also want that information to be kept so that everybody can find that information. What are we finding on an individual team level, and what are we going to see on a statewide level? So let's go to the next value.
That's great. The other piece is that we want to be transparent. And so that means kind of what Jan was describing. We want you to understand what it is we're reviewing, why we're reviewing it, how we're selecting cases, all of that kind of information, and then be able to give you the information that we learn from the review in a transparent way, whether it's through reports, through conversation, through training, all of those areas. And we want to be transparent. I was thinking, Jan, as you were talking too, and I'll go a little bit out of order, but targeted is another one of our values. As you mentioned, we're not necessarily going to do a whole comprehensive review of an entire case all of the time. We're going to be choosing topics and strategically looking at the topics that we need to be looking at, such as MSGs. You know, we've had some work with RSA around that, some goals were set, et cetera. So it's good timing for MSGs because of that reason. And in addition, they're relatively new to us. And so we're still learning. We're learning all the time about MSGs. The other piece around that, it kind of leads into them being timely. By chunking them out into smaller sections, we hope to be able to create a more timely process for you instead of waiting for 18 months for a review or getting information and feedback about your work. They would be much more frequent. And we would all start to sort of get into that pattern of getting feedback about the work and helping to understand the work that we're doing. And we also, in a timely sense, we're also thinking about, we want to be looking at your work that's relatively current. We don't want to be looking at 5 years ago. We want to be looking at things that are happening now. We also have a value of being consistent. Consistency is really important. And I think people usually appreciate a consistent approach. So again, the group that we brought on, the new QA development specialists, will be working very closely together to be seeing the review work in a consistent way, to be providing feedback in a consistent way that is developmental. So there's going to be a lot of work on that in that area too, and that is a strong value that we hold. And then ultimately it needs to be sustainable. It needs to be something that we can keep doing. It's not something that just happens today for 6 months. It's something that we see going on for a long period of time. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to change at all. Kind of like I mentioned before, you know, we continue to learn as we go forward, and we'll be learning as we go forward with this new process as well. But it needs to be something that is sustainable. And that is also part of the reason that the agency is investing in creating a unit, is so that we can sustain this work. Because having folks volunteer to do this, it's not always sustainable with all the other pieces of the work that need to get done.
Perfect. So to just reiterate, it'll be a developmental process. It'll be, we want it to be transparent. We want the information about how we're doing it and to be not only developmental, but transparent. We want to make sure that you are aware of what are the major issues we'll be looking at, and then how to do that. We want, as I say, we wanted to make it easier to do it well than to not have it accomplished in the appropriate way. So we want to really teach to the best way of doing it. And it really comes on the platform of the policy learning team. So developmental, transparent, consistent, timely, targeted, and sustainable. We want it to be sustainable and going into the future. I feel like it's also important for us to say just a little bit about why it's essential. We want this, we want quality. All of us in Minnesota want quality work, and we want to be able to measure our work as quality. But also, when we had our monitoring visit in August now of 2019, they mentioned that we did not have a neutral evaluative process. We did not have a good process to take a look at our effectiveness and to take a look at our quality. And so I'm sure that when they send us our final report, they'll be mentioning, what are you doing? And that is part of the reason why we're doing it, but certainly not the only part of it. My sense is that we will need to be ongoing in communicating with you. And Jennifer, I think you have plans to do it in more than one way. This video is not the only way to communicate information about our quality assurance. Do you have some comments about that going into the future?
I see us putting a large investment into communicating with you, whether it's through our managers, through a newsletter that we're trying to develop, and potentially through videos, through training, and through coming out to your teams to be able to talk through these things with you. But in addition to that, we are working together with others to create technology where you'll have access to reports. And that's another way of being transparent, where you have the information, the results of the review, the information to help you know where your strengths are and where your areas of growth are.
So thank you for joining us today. Sometimes I've had many conversations with Jennifer over this process and planning. And when we talked about it, we said, well, maybe what we should do is have you join us in our conversation, because this is just joining us in the conversation that we've had. I really wish you could have been part of many of our conversations, because we spent a long time really thinking about this and planning it. And of course, now that the work group is started up and is doing a great job, we've had additional conversations. So we want to keep you up to date in what we're doing, so you feel very well informed. And if you have questions, you'll be able to direct them to Jennifer and to the unit that she's working within. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been fun to have you join us, and we'll be talking with you again about this process, and looking forward to the first review. I won't be here for the first review. Have been retired by that time, but I hope some of you will give me the heads up that it's started, that the MSG review is started or completed, and I'll look forward to that. I think this is one of the best things that we could be doing for bringing quality into our agency. And I do want to say one additional thing. I'm hoping that at some point we will reach the point of saying to our participants, what do you think about our services? And have them connect with us about the quality that they've experienced, which I know will be good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Jan. Your vision has been instrumental in all of this work. And we do look forward to all the different iterations and the additions to this work as we go forward, including that feedback from participants. We appreciate it, and we're really excited about the work, and we look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.